Heya, heya, see below. Heya, heya, storm wind blow.
Chapter 8. The Root House. Tavaro reached the lower road and discovered Sanara had been unfairly precise. The medicine did not keep him standing. It convinced Pain to file its objections with a slower office. His ribs still scraped when he breathed too deeply. His wrist still pulsed beneath the new bandage. His left thigh still carried a cold, dead patch where the Nine-More's venom had touched him. None of it had authority now. The road stayed under his feet. The lamps had sharp edges. Every sound from the harbour arrived separately, as if the night had been taken apart and labelled rope over wood, water against hull, a child crying into cloth, Maru's voice below, cutting through the dock noise. On the pool, not before it, the next jar line answered by moving cleanly. Tavaro hated how much that mattered. Not prophecy, not miracle, work. The Rootstaff waited beneath it all. No sound came from the staff, not true sound. Still, Tavaro felt it through the lower road, through old stone and salt wood. Green pressure spreading under the night, like a root searching for a crack. The Skybone Line shifted beneath his bandage. "No," he whispered. The line did not answer. It had no words. It had moods. Old oath, road hunger, and a talent for making his arm feel filled with white fire and tendon. Tonight it wanted out. "No," Tavaro said again. Sanara made rules. Many rules. She was very pleased with herself. The child mark warmed beneath the rib wrap. "You are not helping." It pulsed once. Tavaro opened his left hand. The clay disc lay in his palm. He had carried it closed in his fist without noticing. The vile hand pressed into it was rough under his thumb. One edge chipped where the old mold had failed to hold shape. A hand could open. That was what Sanara had said. She had given him a clay reminder and expected it to hold against grief, medicine, divine pressure, and centuries of bad habit. Optimistic woman, very poor understanding of clay. He tucked the disc inside his tunic, close to the child mark. For a moment, the mortal hand and the old burned hand lay against each other through cloth. His ribs tightened around both. The root house stood where the lower shrine road bent above the oldest harbour stones. The workhouse sat uphill behind him, with its garden, basins, fever mats, and cedar chest. Smokehouse Lane ran below, thick with drying fish, grief, and Reva's anger. Beyond that, the lower market opened toward the main pier. Past the pier, the shallow dock and harbour mouth waited in lamplight. Past the outer reef, the sea stopped wearing polite colours. The root house had not been built as a shrine. Tavaro remembered when it had been a net hall, then a storage house, then a fever meeting place during pale salt, when bodies needed distance and hope needed walls. Now green cloth hung from the beams. Bowls of water lined the steps. Root signs had been painted across the door frame in ash and crushed leaf. The roof had been raised with broadland timber and Solari palm ribs, giving the building the posture of two trees disagreeing in public. Light spilled from the upper windows, not flame, green. People waited outside in clusters. Farbound captains, mothers with travel bags, two old men wrapped in sleeping mats, three young sailors with knives at their belts and fear in their mouths. No one spoke loudly. The green light pressed voices into murmurs. Tavaro should have waited. He had promised to speak first. Speaking worked better with a plan, or at least a sentence. He had many sentences. Most were insults. Several involved Oren's staff and storage options Sanara would not approve. The medicine liked those best. He crossed the road. The first woman who saw him went rigid. Her hand went to the child beside her. The child looked up, saw Tavaro, and smiled because children had no respect for timing. "Tidebreaker," the child said. The woman pulled him back. Tavaro stopped at the foot of the steps. "I need Oren." No one answered. A young sailor moved in front of the door. 16, perhaps. Old enough to own a knife. Not old enough to distrust the hand holding it. His fingers closed around the hilt. Tavaro looked at the grip. The sailor let go. "Good," Tavaro said. "You were about to cut your own thumb." The sailor flushed. A murmur moved through the waiting people. "Is he inside?" Tavaro asked. A man near the left pillar said, "You should leave. I have received that advice from more qualified people. You shamed yourself at the docks." The words struck and slid strangely aside. The medicine held them back just far enough for thought to remain neat. Interesting. Dangerous. "Yes," Tavaro said. The man blinked. Tavaro stepped onto the first stair. The Skybone Line burned. He stopped. The Rootstaff was above him. Not near. Closed. The upper room. The bandage over his wrist tightened as the line pressed against stitches and sheath. Heat crawled up his forearm. He curled his hand closed, then opened it again. A hand could open. He climbed. No one stopped him. The lower hall smelled of old nets, saltwood, lamp oil, and crushed green leaf. Benches lined the walls. Offerings sat beneath a plain shelf. Shell bowls, hair knots tied with thread, little carvings of boats, a child's tooth, a cracked fever cup mended with green wax. That stopped him. Tavaro looked at the cup. Someone had written a name along the side in careful ink. The name had blurred from handling. He knew that kind of cup. Fever cups had marks on the base, so no one mixed them with food bowls. Sanara used them in the workhouse. He had broken dozens. Once she had threatened to make him drink from his own hands. The root house kept one as a relic, not a weapon, not a lie, a relic. The Farbound did not follow the staff because they were fools. He knew that. He had known it, and preferred not to know. They followed because fever had entered their beds, and something green had stood between some of them and graves. His anger lost its clean edge. Then the Skybone Line burned again. The edge returned. Voices came from above. Oren first, low, hoarse. "The south current will take the smaller craft wide if the wind shifts before dawn. Keep them tied to the deep hulls until the second bell." A woman answered, "Maru, tie them too close, and they become kindling with relatives. Then not too close. That is not a measurement, root-bearer." Another voice, younger. The vision showed a red dawn and a black bird. "We sail when both appear." Lapo. "No," Oren said. Tavaro went still. Inside, a chair scraped. Lapo's voice sharpened. "No." The root showed a sign. Oren said, "Signs are not weather. The sea remains the sea. We sail when the tide turns east." A silence. Maru said, "A sign can wait its turn behind water." Tavaro leaned against the wall. That was inconvenient. He had wanted Oren wild. He had wanted green madness, simple and loud. Instead, the old man was arguing against a vision with tide sense, and Maru was insulting prophecy into better logistics. Rude of them both. Lapo said, "Quieter. Then why did it show the bird? Perhaps because you needed it, or because we should wait. Perhaps. We still count water, wind, hull, and knees." "Knees?" Maru said. "The root may show land," Lapo said, voice tired now. "It does not know Mother Vasa cannot climb a high ladder if her left hip swells." Maru grunted. "Good. The boy has one working thought left." Oren said nothing for a breath. Tavaro heard the pride in that silence. He pushed through the door. The upper room fell silent. It had been remade for maps. A broad table filled the center, crowded with shell weights, cord lines, water bowls, charcoal marks, carved boat tokens, and strips of green cloth tied around chosen roots. Small name tablets lay in rows beside Lapo's hand, each tied to a hull token with colored thread. Oren's own tablet sat apart, marked with the vial hand and the root sign beside it. 3 captains stood along one side. Maru was among them, red cord at her wrist, grey-black braid tight against her skull, a deck knife at her belt, and a stance that belonged to ships in ugly weather. She looked Tavaro over once, limp wrist, ribs, eyes. Then she looked at Oren. Good woman. She knew where the danger sat. Lapo stood at the foot of the table, travel bundle at his feet, both hands flat on the wood, his tally cord wound around one wrist. The knots were small, exact, and practical. Reaver's work, Tavaro thought, the kind of knot that held because it disliked failure personally. Oren sat behind the table with the rootstaff across his knees. He looked older than at the dock, much older. Lamplight showed what green glow had hidden below, hollows under the eyes, skin loose at the throat, fingers swollen around the knuckles, white hair unbound at the temples. He had wrapped his left wrist in linen, badly, as if treating himself had become a task for later, and later had never arrived. The staff made him look stronger than he was. That angered Tavaro, in a way he did not understand. Oren lifted his eyes. Tavaro, Oren. Lapo stared at him. You should be at the workhouse. Everyone says that. No one appreciates my range. No one laughed. Tavaro had known they would not. He made the joke anyway, because it gave his mouth a task, other than begging. Oren looked at the bandage on his wrist. You are bleeding. Less than usual. That is not reassuring. I have been told. Maru's gaze dropped to the name tablets. Her hand rested near her knife, but did not close around it. Do we keep counting? No, Oren said. Leave us. One of the other captains frowned. Now. The word did not carry command by volume. The staff glowed once, low and slow, and certainty entered the room like breath. The captains obeyed. Maru did not at once. She looked at Oren, then at Lapo, then at Tavaro. If this becomes a knife room, she said, shout before the floor gets slick. Oren's face did not change. Leave us, Captain. Maru's jaw worked once. Then she turned and went out with the others, shutting the door behind her. Lapo remained. Oren looked at him. You too. Lapo's jaw tightened. For one breath, Tavaro hoped. Then Lapo said, no. Oren studied him. The staff gave no pulse this time. Very well, Oren said. Tavaro should have been relieved. He was not. The refusal looked like Lapo's own. That made everything harder. The three men remained with the table, the staff, and the coming dawn. Oren set one hand on the rootstaff. 8 pale knots showed under his fingers, almost hidden by the green, moving through the grain. Tavaro disliked himself for counting them. 8 knots, pale as healed knuckles. You came for the root, Oren said. Yes. You plan to follow us? Yes. Lapo looked at him sharply. Tavaro kept his gaze on Oren. Your smaller hulls will not make open water without someone reading the currents from above. The eastern deep has weather under it. Things rise where the surface looks empty. Vadruk hunts beyond the 4th route if he has moved south. He likes low ships. They look like apology. Lapo swallowed. Oren's face remained calm. You think we cannot cross without you. I think many will die, even with me. Honesty suits you. I am trying it briefly. Oren leaned back. The staff brightened near one knot, then dimmed. You should not follow. Tavaro laughed. The sound came too loud in the room. The medicine made it clean, almost bright. Lapo flinched. You are welcome, Tavaro said. I was having a full night of poor ideas. That one makes mine look modest. If you follow, half the fleet will watch the sky instead of the water. The other half will think every shadow is your hand reaching down. Good. They will stay alert. They will stay frightened. The sea rewards frightened people who can count. They will not look at their own hands. Tavaro felt the child mark burn beneath the veiled disk. He touched neither. With me above them, he said. More of those hands remain attached. Oren's mouth tightened. You bring the dead into every argument. No one can answer them. The dead are relevant. So are the living. Tavaro's hand closed on the table edge. Lapo said his name. Tavaro. The name cut through both men. Tavaro looked at him. Lapo's eyes were red. He had been crying or fighting sleep, or both. He looked young in the green light, not like the boy from the workhouse. Not quite. The fever had taken that softness years ago. Still, the old memory clung to him in cruel places. The curve of his cheek, the stubborn lower lip. The hands that had once hammered a shelf crooked and presented it to Senara like a kingdom. "Do not follow us," Lapo said. Tavaro went cold. "What? If you follow, every storm we survive becomes yours. Every child pulled back from the rail. Every hull that reaches shore. People will point up and say we only lived because you let us. You do need me." Lapo's face changed. Tavaro heard his own words after they left him. "Too late." "No," Lapo said. "We may need warning. We may need maps. We may need help. We do not need every breath to point back to you." Tavaro gripped the edge of the table. Wood creaked. The route ran across the charcoal map in green cord, east past every safe ring, then farther over blank wood, where no island marks stood. Tavaro stared at it as if looking hard enough might make the line turn sensible. "You are asking me to watch you die so the story comes out neat. I am asking you to stop making us your story." The medicine held his body's pain away. It did nothing for that. Oren's gaze stayed on Tavaro. "You hear him." "I hear the Rootstaff speaking through his throat." Lapo recoiled. Oren's hand closed on the staff. Green moved inside the wood. The Skybone Line surged. Tavaro jerked his wrist against his thigh and hissed. Oren saw it. "The line reacts to the staff." "Yes? Why?" "Because it has taste." "Tavaro?" "Because the Skybone Line is oathwork of the near gods, and that thing is something else wearing wood." Oren looked down at the staff. For a moment, only the old healer was there, tired, sick, human. He ran his thumb along one pale knot, and the green moved toward his skin like a living thing answering touch. "I do not know everything it is," Oren said. That surprised Tavaro enough to still him. Oren looked up. "I know what it did. I know what it showed. I know what it costs when I ask too much." Lapo turned toward him. "Costs?" Oren did not look at him. Tavaro watched the silence between them. "There, a hidden thing. What cost?" Tavaro asked. Oren smiled without humor. "You first." "My body is very public." "Your body, yes. Your cost, no." Tavaro's grip tightened again. Wood fibers split beneath his fingers. Oren looked at the broken edge. "Even when you mean only to hold, the rest of us must survive your strength." The sentence landed exactly where Oren aimed it. The medicine sharpened the impact. Tavaro let go. A hand could open. The veiled disc felt warm inside his tunic. Lapo took one step closer to Oren. "What cost?" Oren closed his eyes briefly. The rootstaff dimmed. "I am tired," he said. Lapo shook his head. "That is not an answer." Oren looked at his own hands. They were shaking. "Not much." "Enough." "My hands shake after I use it," he said. "Sometimes I lose a morning. Sometimes I wake with names in my mouth that I did not put there. I sleep and dream of roots underwater. I ask for light, and when it comes I am older afterward." Lapo's face went pale. "You did not tell me." "No." "Why?" Oren's hand moved on the staff. "Not stroking." "Not quite." "Because you would have tried to carry it for me." Lapo opened his mouth. No sound came. Tavaro saw the old man's hand tremble harder. The anger shifted. Not gone. Never gone. It slipped under fear. Oren was dying. Perhaps not tonight. Perhaps not soon enough for drama. Yet the staff had been eating hours from him, or he had been feeding them willingly into the grain. Tavaro did not know the rule. He knew the shape. He had seen it in men who stood too long in battle, because others needed their feet to remain under them. Useful people never lacked people willing to spend them. The thought should have softened him. The staff pulsed. Certainty returned to the room. Lapo's shoulders steadied. Oren's trembling hand calmed. Tavaro felt the green pressure brush his face. Gentle, intimate, infuriating. It did not command. It offered, "You are needed. You can still make this right. Take the staff away. Stop the road. Save the boy. Save Senara. Save them all before choice kills them." The voice had no voice. It used his own want. That was worse. Tavaro stepped back. His hip struck the wall. Oren's eyes opened. "You feel it?" Tavaro's mouth had gone dry. "What is it?" "Power." "That is a lazy answer." "Yes." "What is it doing?" "What power does," Oren said. "It reaches for the shape of the person holding it." Tavaro looked at Lapo. The young man stood very still, eyes bright with green reflection. His charm pulsed at his throat. His hands were no longer shaking. "That is not comfort," Tavaro said. "No," Oren said. "That is a hand on the back of his neck," Lapo said. "I am here because I choose." "Yes," Tavaro snapped, "and the staff makes choosing feel washed and dressed." Lapo flinched. "Good." "No, not good." Tavaro breathed too hard. The rib caught. Pain tried to return with authority. The medicine stepped in and moved it aside. Oren said, "If you know that danger, why do you trust the medicine in your blood?" The room narrowed. Lapo looked at him. "Medicine?" Tavaro kept his eyes on Oren. The old man's face was calm. Too calm, not smug. Oren looked like a man naming a wound he wished did not exist. "Sonara gave you standing draft," Oren said. "I smell wake thorn on your sweat." Tavaro felt his skin heat. Lapo stared. "Sonara gave you that?" "Yes." "Why?" "To keep options alive." Oren's eyes saddened. "That sounds like her. Do not speak about her as if you get to be proud right now." Oren did not rise. He did not lift the staff. He only looked at Tavaro across the table of maps and ruin. "I am proud of her always." The sentence struck Tavaro with strange force. Proud, a simple word, a mortal word. Oren said it without grandeur, without needing Sonara to save him first. Tavaro suddenly hated him, not because Oren was wrong, because Oren possessed something Tavaro could not reach with a line, a mark, a raised island, or a century of blood, a bond not earned by rescue. The child mark burned hard enough that he nearly gasped. Oren saw that too. Of course he did. He was Vael. "She should not have had to ask this of you," Oren said. "No, she did." "Yes, because she loves Lapo." "Yes, and because she trusts you." The room shifted. Tavaro looked at him. Oren shook his head once. "That is not the same as being right to trust you tonight." The words went through the medicine and found flesh. Tavaro's hand moved to the clay disk beneath his tunic. A hand could open. He pulled it free and held it in his palm, where all three of them could see. Lapo frowned. "What is that?" "Sonara gave it to me." Oren looked at the disk and closed his eyes. When he opened them, tears had gathered there. That was the final unfairness. Oren had no right to weep for Sonara now. No right to sit with the staff that had drawn Lapo away, with ships waiting to tear her life in two, with a movement that had put Tavaro in this room, carrying medicine she had mixed, because every better choice had died before dawn. No right. The medicine made the thought bright. The staff answered. Green light spread across the table. The map cords lifted without hands. Lapo drew in a breath. Not fear, awe. Tavaro saw the root rise in the air. Green thread over water. Black gaps where no islands stood. A distant shore beyond the blank. Red cliffs. A river mouth wide as a storm channel. Trees taller than masts. Birds with gold throats. The vision entered through his eyes, then deeper. It was real, or close enough to make real jealous. Land beyond Tavaro's hand. Room beyond the raised islands. Mortals standing on a shore that owed him nothing. The sight hurt. Then the vision changed. Water darkened. Hulls cracked. Children slid screaming across wet decks. Vadruk rose beneath a small boat, crownback glittering with broken shields and teeth. A wave folded over the lead hull. Lapo vanished into black water. Sonara stood on a deck with the rootstaff in both hands, and green light burning her face hollow. Tavaro lunged before the image ended. Stop it. Oren lifted the staff, not toward Tavaro, toward the vision. The green threads tightened. The ships steadied. The storm withdrew. The eastern shore returned, bright and impossible. Do you see? Oren said. His voice had gone rough. It can guide. It can warn. It showed them dead. It showed danger. It showed Lapo drowning. It showed what happens if we go blind. No. Tavaro came around the table. You do not get to dress a drowning as a lesson. Lapo moved between them. Bad choice. Brave choice. Very Lapo. Tavaro stopped. because Lapo stood there. The staff burned brighter in Oren's hand behind him. The Skybone Line fought the bandage. The seam split. Blood ran hot down Tavaro's wrist. Lapo saw it and stepped closer. "You are hurt. That has been established. You need to go back. With you?" "No." The word hit again. Tavaro looked at his face. "Go to Sonara. Tell her yourself." "I cannot." "You can. If I see her, I may stay." The honesty stunned both of them. Lapo's lips trembled. The green charm at his throat flickered. "I may stay," he said, "and then I will hate her for it." Tavaro had no answer. Behind Lapo, Oren lowered the staff. The green threads settled back onto the map. "Lapo," Oren said, softly. "Only a name." Lapo turned. Tavaro saw the charm pulse. He moved without thought. His hand closed around Lapo's shoulder and pulled him back. Lapo stumbled into him. Startled, Tavaro did not grip hard. He knew he did not. The medicine made every pressure exact. Enough to move, not enough to bruise. Still, Lapo's face changed. Fear. Tavaro released him. Too late. Oren stood. The rootstaff struck the floor once. Green light flared through the room. "Enough," Oren said. The word carried more than voice. It entered Tavaro's bones. For one breath, everything lined itself into terrible order. Oren with the staff, Lapo with the charm, Sonara with the empty bowl, the Farbound with ships full of children, the sea with its mouths, the old fever cup below, the clay disk in Tavaro's palm, the child mark burning, the Skybone Line tearing at its sheath, the medicine singing in his blood that he could stand, he could act, he could still make one choice, strong enough to save them from all the smaller ones. Oren lifted the staff toward Lapo, perhaps to steady him, perhaps to call him, perhaps to push Tavaro back, perhaps only to keep the old man upright. Tavaro never knew. That mattered. It did not save him. "No," Tavaro said. He reached for the staff. Oren pulled it back. The Skybone Line surged. Tavaro did not draw it. He had promised, so his empty hand did the work instead. He caught the staff with his right hand. Pain opened white through the torn seam. Green light climbed his arm. The line inside him recoiled, then lunged toward the wood. Stitches snapped. Blood spattered the map table. Oren shouted something. Lapo shouted too. The staff showed Tavaro a child in water, a baby sinking through blue light with no name. Hands above the surface, withdrawing. Near God voices, far and bright, useful, beloved if useful, kept if bleeding. The vision changed. Oren at the dock, saying beautiful cage. Sonara's face when she could not tell Tavaro he had the right to come back alive. Lapo turning when Oren called. The far-bound ships split open, and children taken by dark mouths. Tavaro tried to let go. His fingers would not open. A hand could open. The clay disk cracked inside his left fist. Oren pulled the staff again. Tavaro struck him. The first blow landed against Oren's shoulder. Not his face, not his throat. Shoulder. Tavaro knew that. He saw the body twist, heard bone crack, saw Oren hit the table and scatter shell weights across the floor. A mortal man's shoulder was not more-spawn flesh. Tavaro knew that too late. Lapo screamed. Tavaro should have stopped there. He did not. Oren pushed himself upright with his good arm, staff still in hand, green light pouring from it now in ragged pulses. His face was white with pain. His eyes met Tavaro's. There was fear in them, fear of him. The room became the dock again. Spears raised, people stepping back. Beautiful cage, cage, cage. The medicine made anger clean. The staff made certainty close. The Skybone Line inside his torn wrist screamed for answer. Tavaro crossed the space and seized Oren by the front of his robe. Oren was so light. That was what Tavaro would remember. Not the blood first, not the sound, the lightness, the terrible smallness of a body that had once seemed large because authority had lived in it. Oren's feet left the floor. Lapo grabbed Tavaro's arm. "Stop!" Tavaro did not feel the grip until afterward. Oren raised the staff between them. Green light struck Tavaro's face. The vision returned, stronger. Senara kneeling over Lapo's dead body. Senara looking at Tavaro with empty eyes. The Farbound gone, the sea full of broken wood. All of it his fault, because he had stepped away, because he had opened his hand, because he had let choice become death. Tavaro roared. He drove Oren backward. The old man hit the wall beam. Once the staff fell. Twice the beam cracked. Oren's breath left him in a wet sound. Tavaro's fist drew back. He saw it. He saw his own hand. He saw the blood from the wrist seam running along the knuckles. He saw Lapo's fingers still on his arm. He saw Oren's eyes, open and human. He could have stopped. That truth came before the final blow. He could have stopped. He did not. The strike landed. The room broke around it. Oren slid down the wall when Tavaro released him. No grand motion, no curse, no final prophecy. His body folded badly, one leg bent under him, head tipped to the side, mouth open, as if the next breath had been delayed and might still arrive if everyone waited politely. The rootstaff lay across the floor, green light crawling through its grain in thin, panicked threads. Tavaro stood over Oren. His own breath filled the room. In, out, ragged, animal. The medicine faded at the edges, as if even it had stepped back to see what he had done. Lapo was on the floor. Tavaro did not remember pushing him. Perhaps he had fallen. Perhaps the force of the blow had thrown him. Lapo stared at Oren's body with both hands braced behind him. Then his gaze moved to the rootstaff. Green light touched his face. His hand lifted. Not much. Enough. The staff pulsed. Lapo's fingers hovered above the floor, reaching before he seemed to know they had moved. Then his eyes caught on the small tablet beneath the table leg. Oren Vael. The name had been knocked from the leader row and lay half under a spilled water bowl, the ink running at one corner. Lapo dragged himself toward it. His hand passed the rootstaff. Green light brushed his knuckles. He took the tablet instead. He pressed Oren's name to his chest. The staff dimmed. Tavaro watched him and felt something inside himself go quiet in terror. Lapo, he said. The name came out wrong. Lapo scrambled to Oren. He gathered the old man against him, then froze, because the body moved in ways living bodies should not move. His hand hovered over the broken shoulder, over the blood, over the face. Oren, Lapo said. No answer. Tavaro's mouth opened. I am sorry. The words were there. Ready? Useless. The child mark burned so hard he bent around it. The clay disc fell from inside his left fist. It struck the floor in two pieces. A hand split open. Footsteps thundered on the stairs. The captains had heard. Everyone had heard. Of course they had. Tavaro had made the kind of sound people tell children about years later when explaining why they left home. The door burst open. Captain Maru entered first, knife in hand, red cord dark against her wrist. Her voice arrived before her body fully crossed the threshold. Hold the stairs. Knives low. The young sailor came behind her. Then the woman from the side room. Then others, crowding the landing, faces lit green and gold. They saw Oren. They saw Lapo holding him. They saw Tavaro standing with blood on his hands. No one asked what happened. There was no answer that would help. The young sailor lifted his knife with both hands. His grip was better now. Someone had taught him in the last few minutes. Or fear had. Tavaro stared at the blade. He should tell the boy to lower it. He should kneel. He should pick up the staff before someone else did. He should run. He should wait for Senara. His thoughts came apart and reformed around one fact. Oren had been right. At the dock, at the table, in the room. Not about the sea, not about the staff, not about the safety of the crossing. About him. The Farbound had needed proof that Tavaro's love could become force when denied. He had given it to them in blood. Lapo looked up from Oren's body. His face had emptied of everything except grief. When he spoke, his voice did not shake. Murderer. The word reached Tavaro before any blade did. It entered cleanly. This time the medicine did nothing.
stands quiet in the road
while the old house waits.
The medicine walked into Tavaro's blood and made the lamps too clear. Rope, water, child cry, Maru below, each sound cut through his ear. He held the clay hand in his palm,
then laid it by the mark.
Mortal hand and burned hand,
both listening in the dark.
The root house glowed above the stones, green cloth bowls, old fear. A cracked fever cup below
made anger disappear.
A hand can open,
Sonara said,
a hand can open
before the dead.
In the root house, green fire in the grain,
Skybone under torn skin,
red medicine in the vein.
The root house,
3 men before the dawn,
power reached for wanting,
and the hand held on.
Oren sat with the staff across him, made pale knots and wood. Lapo stood by the root cord, trying to make leaving good.
Tavaro asked for the sea road
to guard them from above.
Lapo said,
do not follow us,
do not make our breath your love.
Oren said the staff had cost him
Hands that shook at day,
names that woke inside his mouth.
years burned clean away. A hand can open,
The clay remembered,
a hand can open.
while green roots entered in the root house.
Green fire in the grain,
Skybone under torn skin,
red medicine in the vein.
the root house,
3 men before the dawn,
power reached for wanting,
and the hand held on. The map rose up in green cord light, red cliffs, black trees, gold throat birds. A river wide enough for hope,
a shore beyond his hurt.
then water darkened, hillsides cracked, Vadruk rose below, Lapo drowned in black sea rain.
Sonara burned, green, hollow. Stop it, Tavaro cried.
The staff made fear look true.
Lapo stood between the men,
As sons of healers do. Go tell Sonara, Tavaro said. Lapo shook in pain. If I see your face tonight, I may choose to stay. Then I will hate her for the stain.
his green charm gave one flare.
Oren spoke the young man's name, and
Tavaro saw him turn
he
there,
pulled the boy back by the shoulder.
too soft to bruise the bone.
Still fear crossed Lapo's face.
And Tavaro stood
In the
alone.
root house, green fire in the grain,
Skybone under torn skin,
red medicine in the vein.
the root house,
3 men before the dawn,
power reached for wanting.
and the hand held on.
Enough, said Oren.
The staff struck wood.
Enough, said Oren, as if enough still could.
No line, no mark,
He kept the law,
so his empty hand.
reached out instead.
Green climbed the blood,
White fire tore
a
through.
baby sank in blue.
Useful, wanted, captive, bleeding. All the old wounds knew.
The clay hand cracked inside his fist.
Oren's shoulder broke.
Lapo screamed against his arm.
The room filled up with smoke.
Oren rose with one good hand.
Fear in human eyes.
Tavaro saw the final blow.
Before he let it fly,
He could have stopped,
truth came first.
then blood
Answered
blood
filled the wood. In the root house, green fire on the floor, skybone under torn skin.
A son is named no more.
The root house, no song can clean the stain. Power reached for wanting,
And love became a chain.
Lapo passed the rootstaff by, took the name tablet instead, pressed Oren to his breaking chest, and held the newly dead. Maru king with knife held low,
Faces filled the door.
Tavaro stood with bloody hands,
Useful nevermore.
hey, hey, hands split wide, hey, hey, dawn stood still.